Hey everybody, welcome back to the Young Elder TV. Today we're diving into the true origins of Easter, Passover, and Good Friday. What do egg-laying bunnies and hot cross buns have to do with the resurrection of Jesus? It's a strange mix. Symbols of spring and fertility with a solemn, religious observance. There's more to these holidays than meets the eye. What if the truth is far more ancient and connected to the sun and stars? Get ready to see these holidays in a whole new light. Let's start with Good Friday. Christians commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ on this day, a somber occasion marked by reflection and remembrance. But the name itself, Good Friday, seems at odds with the event it's supposed to represent. Why call the day of Jesus' crucifixion good? It doesn't exactly scream celebration, does it? Some argue that good is a misinterpretation, perhaps derived from God's Friday or Holy Friday. But even then, the focus on mourning and sacrifice seems to overshadow any sense of positivity. It's a day meant to evoke sorrow for the suffering of Jesus, a reminder of his sacrifice for humanity's sins. But what if this emphasis on death and atonement is only one layer of a much deeper, more ancient story? A story that predates Christianity and speaks to a universal human fascination with cycles of death and rebirth, darkness and light. Now let's hop on over to Easter, a holiday celebrated with pastel colors, chocolate bunnies, and the joyful proclamation, "He is risen." But beneath the surface of this seemingly innocent celebration lies a history steeped in ancient traditions. Easter, as it turns out, wasn't always about Jesus. In fact, the very name Easter points to a much older pre-Christian story. The name Easter is believed to be derived from Ishtar, the ancient Assyrian and Babylonian goddess of fertility, love, and war. Ishtar was associated with the planet Venus, the morning star, and her worship involved rituals celebrating the return of spring and the renewal of life. Sound familiar? The themes of rebirth, fertility, and the arrival of spring are central to both Easter and the worship of Ishtar. Even the symbols we associate with Easter, like eggs and bunnies, have deep roots in ancient paganism, representing new life and fertility. Is it merely a coincidence? Or is there a deliberate connection between these seemingly disparate celebrations? Now things are about to get really interesting. We're going beyond just the surface level of bunnies and eggs. Some believe these holidays are part of a grand scheme by a powerful force known as Enlil's seed. In Sumerian mythology, Enlil was a powerful god associated with wind, air, and storms. Could it be that Enlil's seed has been manipulating human traditions for millennia? This brings us to a fascinating idea. The concept of Earthborn birth rights. What are these rights and how do they relate to Easter? Humans born on Earth possess inherent spiritual powers and a connection to the divine feminine energy. Easter then takes on a whole new meaning. It becomes a celebration of these earthborn birthrights, a time when the veil between realms is thin. The symbolism of Easter, with its themes of rebirth and renewal, aligns perfectly with this concept. The other part is that it's alchemy. By painting the eggs different colors, then making the Earthborn hunt for them, as in Easter egg hunt. This is symbolic in Enlil's seed stealing the fertility of the Earthborn, who are people of color. The eggs represent the Earthborn mother's womb, and the egg also represents the auric egg, which is the human electromagnetic field. Let's crack open the symbolism of the Easter egg a little further. As we've established, the egg predates Christianity as a symbol of spring, fertility, and new life. It was associated with Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess whose very name is echoed in the word Easter. But what if the egg holds a deeper, more encoded message? Some believe that the egg represents the cosmic egg, a concept found in various ancient mythologies, signifying the origin of the universe. This egg, containing all the potential for life and creation, bursts forth, giving birth to the cosmos. Connecting this to Easter, the egg can be seen as a symbol of resurrection on a cosmic scale. Just as the universe emerges from the cosmic egg, so too does consciousness awaken from the darkness of ignorance. Ishtar's resurrection, then, could be interpreted as the awakening of the divine feminine energy within each of us, a potent force capable of transforming our reality. And what about the Easter bunny? This seemingly whimsical creature also holds a prominent place in our Easter celebrations. But is it just a cute symbol of spring, or does it too point to a deeper, more ancient truth? The rabbit has been associated with fertility and abundance in various cultures for centuries. In ancient Egypt, for example, the rabbit was linked to the moon and its cycles of growth and decay. Some scholars believe the Easter bunny is a remnant of pagan traditions honoring Eostre, a Germanic goddess of spring and fertility. If we view the Easter bunny through the lens of Enlil's seed and hidden knowledge, it takes on a new layer of intrigue. Could it be that the rabbit, with its ability to reproduce quickly and abundantly, represents the potential for rapid spiritual growth and expansion? Another intriguing aspect of Easter is the tradition of sunrise services. Christians gather at dawn to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, symbolizing the triumph of light over darkness. But could this practice have roots in something beyond Christian tradition? Throughout history, many cultures have revered the sun as a source of life, power, and divinity. Ancient civilizations built elaborate structures aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, demonstrating their deep understanding of the sun's movements and their impact on life on Earth. Sunrise services, with their focus on the rising sun, could be seen as a subtle nod to these ancient sun-worshipping practices. By incorporating this element into Christian tradition, Enlil's seed could effectively mask the true origins of the practice while still harnessing the powerful symbolism of the sun's rebirth. Now let's shift our focus to Passover, a Jewish holiday that often coincides with Easter. Passover commemorates the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt, a story of redemption and freedom. But could there be a deeper connection between Passover and these themes of hidden knowledge and spiritual awakening? Passover is celebrated during the first full moon after the vernal equinox, a time of year when the sun's power is increasing and the days are getting longer. This alignment with the natural world suggests a connection to ancient agricultural cycles and the celebration of rebirth and renewal. Furthermore, the story of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt can be interpreted as an allegory for spiritual liberation. Just as the Israelites escaped physical slavery, so too can we break free from the chains of ignorance and embrace our true spiritual potential. The Jews worship the sun passing over the equator, so they celebrate the Passover. So, what's the verdict? Is Easter merely a Christian holiday celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, or is it a carefully constructed facade, a clever repackaging of ancient pagan traditions designed to keep us in the dark about our true spiritual power? The truth, as with most things, is likely complex and multifaceted. It's undeniable that Easter, Passover, and Good Friday are steeped in ancient symbolism and practices that predate Christianity. Whether these traditions were intentionally manipulated by a powerful force like Enlil's seed or simply evolved organically over time is a matter of debate. What's important is that we approach these holidays with a critical eye, questioning what we've been taught and seeking out the hidden meanings behind the symbols and rituals. By delving into the rich tapestry of history, mythology, and spirituality, we can begin to unravel the mysteries of these holidays and unlock the potential that lies dormant within us. Now let's talk about timing. It's no coincidence that Easter and Passover often fall near a significant astronomical event, the spring equinox. This celestial event, marking the moment when day and night are roughly equal in length, has been celebrated by cultures worldwide for millennia. But why is this date so significant, and how does it tie into the themes we've been exploring? The spring equinox, also known as the vernal equinox, marks a turning point in the Earth's journey around the sun. It signals the end of winter's darkness and the return of light, warmth, and new life. It's a time of rebirth and renewal in the natural world, a time when the Earth awakens from its slumber. Many ancient cultures recognized the spiritual significance of the spring equinox. It was seen as a time of balance and harmony, a moment when the veil between the physical and spiritual realms was thin. It was a time for rituals and celebrations that honored the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Interestingly, the Bible itself contains hints of sun worship and its connection to ancient rituals. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet condemns the Israelites for engaging in practices that sound suspiciously similar to what we now associate with Easter. Ezekiel 8:16 states, "And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord between the porch and the altar were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of the Lord and their faces toward the east. And they worshipped the sun toward the east." This passage suggests that sun worship was prevalent in ancient times, even among the Israelites who were supposed to be devoted to Yahweh, the God of Abraham. It also highlights the east as a direction associated with the sun and its life-giving power. Let's delve deeper into the celestial connections surrounding these holidays. Some intriguing, albeit controversial, theories link the 12 apostles of Jesus to the 12 signs of the zodiac. While this idea might seem far-fetched at first glance, it speaks to a broader theme of celestial symbolism woven into religious narratives. The zodiac, a belt of constellations that the sun travels through over the course of a year, has been used for centuries as a tool for understanding personality traits, predicting events, and connecting with the cosmos. Each sign is associated with specific qualities and archetypes. While there's no direct evidence to suggest that the apostles were explicitly based on the zodiac, the number 12 holds significant weight in both astrology and Christianity. Could it be that the story of Jesus and his disciples was imbued with astrological symbolism to convey deeper spiritual truths? Section 4. The Masonic Connection. Whispers of esoteric knowledge in plain sight. The Masonic tradition, known for its secrecy and symbolism, also offers intriguing connections to these ancient themes. Freemasonry, a fraternal organization with roots in medieval stonemasons' guilds, places great emphasis on symbolism, allegory, and the pursuit of knowledge. Some Masonic scholars believe that the organization's rituals and symbols preserve remnants of ancient wisdom, including knowledge related to astronomy, astrology, and the cycles of nature. They point to the prevalence of sun and moon symbolism within Masonic lodges, as well as the organization's focus on geometry, architecture, and the celestial arts. Could it be that Freemasonry, with its emphasis on secrecy and hidden knowledge, holds clues to the true origins and meanings of these holidays? Is Easter perhaps a modern-day expression of ancient mysteries passed down through generations of initiates? Section 5. Reclaiming the Vernal Equinox. Honoring the cycles of nature and the divine feminine. Regardless of your beliefs about Enlil's seed, hidden knowledge, or the Masonic connection, the spring equinox remains a powerful time for reflection and renewal. It's a time to connect with the natural world, honor the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, and embrace the divine feminine energy that flows through all things. Whether you celebrate Easter, Passover, or simply the changing seasons, take some time to appreciate the beauty and wonder of this celestial event. Spend time in nature, meditate on the themes of growth and transformation, and connect with your own inner wisdom. The spring equinox is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, light always returns. It's a time to shed old patterns, embrace new beginnings, and step into our full potential. Section 6. Easter's Astronomical Underpinnings. Decoding the cosmic dance of the sun and moon. It's essential to remember that the date of Easter is determined not by a fixed calendar date, but by a fascinating interplay between the sun and moon. Easter Sunday always falls on the first Sunday after the first full moon occurring on or after the spring equinox. This intricate calculation reflects the ancient practice of observing the heavens and aligning human celebrations with the cycles of nature. It also highlights the moon's significance in determining religious observances, a theme found in various cultures and traditions. So as you bite into that chocolate bunny or watch children hunt for brightly colored eggs, remember that you're participating in a tradition shaped by the movements of celestial bodies. Easter, at its core, is a celebration of the cosmos, a reminder of our interconnectedness with the rhythms of the universe. All right, folks, let's travel back in time, way back to ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. This is where we find one of the most compelling pieces of the Easter puzzle, the goddess Ishtar. As we touched upon earlier, the very name Easter is believed to be derived from Ishtar, and for good reason. Ishtar was a major deity in the Mesopotamian pantheon, worshipped as the goddess of love, beauty, war, fertility, and importantly, the morning star. Her story is full of drama, passion, and themes of death and resurrection that echo through time, influencing religious beliefs and cultural practices for millennia to come. One of Ishtar's most famous myths involves her descent into the underworld to rescue her lover, Tammuz. Before we delve further into Ishtar's tale, we need to go even further back in time to explore the Sumerian goddess Inanna. Inanna, later known as Ishtar by the Babylonians, was a powerful deity associated with love, war, justice, and the planet Venus. Her story, the descent of Inanna, is one of the oldest known myths in human history, dating back over 5,000 years. In this epic tale, Inanna embarks on a perilous journey to the underworld, ruled by her sister, Ereshkigal. Inanna's motives are complex, but the story speaks to universal themes of death, rebirth, and the cyclical nature of life. As Inanna descends through the 7 gates of the underworld, she's stripped of her power and ultimately dies, hanging lifeless on a hook. However, Inanna's story doesn't end there. Through the intervention of other gods and her own resilience, she's resurrected and returns to the world of the living, transformed by her experience. This myth, with its themes of death, sacrifice, and resurrection, predates Christianity by thousands of years. Now let's connect the dots back to Ishtar and her lover, Tammuz. Tammuz, a god of vegetation and fertility, dies each year, mirroring the cycle of the seasons. Ishtar, grief-stricken, descends into the underworld to retrieve him. Although she succeeds in bringing Tammuz back to the world of the living, he can only stay for half the year, reflecting the cyclical nature of life and death, growth and decay. This myth resonated deeply with the ancient people who relied on the land for their survival. Tammuz's death and resurrection symbolize the cycle of planting and harvesting, the promise of new life emerging from the barrenness of winter. The parallels between the myths of Tammuz and Jesus are striking. Both figures are associated with sacrifice, death, and resurrection. Both stories offer hope for renewal and eternal life. Could it be that the Christian story of Jesus' death and resurrection drew inspiration from these earlier myths, adapting them to fit a new religious framework? The connection between ancient Mesopotamian myths and Easter doesn't end there. Consider Lent, the 40-day period of fasting and reflection observed by many Christians leading up to Easter. This period of solemn observance has intriguing parallels to ancient mourning rituals associated with Tammuz. In ancient Mesopotamia, the death of Tammuz was marked by a period of intense mourning. People, particularly women, would weep and wail for Tammuz, their tears symbolizing the life-giving waters needed to revive the land. This period of mourning lasted for 40 days, mirroring the 40 days of Lent. While Lent is officially observed as a time to commemorate Jesus' 40 days of fasting in the desert, the symbolic resonance with the ancient mourning rituals for Tammuz is hard to ignore. It suggests a deeper layer of meaning embedded within Christian tradition, a layer that connects to ancient cycles of death and rebirth, loss and renewal. Now, let's talk about some of the lighter aspects of Easter, the symbols we've come to associate with this holiday: eggs, bunnies, and baskets overflowing with treats. While these symbols might seem purely whimsical, they too have roots in ancient pagan traditions. The egg, a universal symbol of fertility, new life, and the potential for creation, has been associated with spring festivals for centuries. In ancient Egypt, for example, eggs were decorated and given as gifts during the spring equinox. The rabbit, too, with its reputation for fertility and abundance, was a potent symbol of spring and renewal. Over time, these ancient symbols were incorporated into Christian tradition, their pagan origins fading into the background. The blood sacrifices and somber rituals of old were replaced with brightly colored eggs, chocolate bunnies, and the joyful celebration of Jesus' resurrection. Even the very locations where Christians gather to celebrate Easter are often steeped in layers of history, their past intertwined with earlier religious practices. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, for example, is revered by Christians as the site of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. However, archaeological evidence suggests that this site was considered sacred long before the arrival of Christianity. In Roman times, a temple dedicated to Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love and beauty, stood on this very spot. Aphrodite, like Ishtar, was associated with themes of love, fertility, and the planet Venus, highlighting a fascinating continuity of religious beliefs and practices across cultures and time periods. The fact that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was built upon the foundations of an earlier pagan temple speaks volumes about the ways in which Christianity adapted and absorbed existing religious practices, often repurposing sacred sites and symbols for their own use. Section 7. Horus, Mithras, Dionysus, a legacy of dying and rising gods. The story of a god who dies and is resurrected is not unique to Christianity. In fact, numerous ancient cultures shared myths about dying and rising deities, each embodying themes of sacrifice, renewal, and the promise of eternal life. Horus, the Egyptian god of kingship, is a prime example. Horus's story, like that of Jesus, involves a betrayal, a death, and a miraculous resurrection. Mithras, a Persian god popular among Roman soldiers, also shared a similar narrative, his death and resurrection celebrated around the winter solstice. Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and ecstasy, was another deity associated with death and rebirth. His myth, like those of Tammuz and Jesus, connected to the cycles of nature, symbolizing the death and rebirth of vegetation, the promise of new life emerging from decay. Section 8. The Council of Nicaea's Compromise, blending paganism and Christianity. So, how did these ancient pagan myths and practices become so intertwined with Christianity? Part of the answer lies in the historical context in which Christianity emerged and spread. In the 4th century AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine sought to unify his empire under a single religion, Christianity. However, the transition from paganism to Christianity wasn't a clean break. Many people continued to hold on to their traditional beliefs and practices, even as they adopted elements of the new faith. To ease this transition, Christian leaders often incorporated existing pagan traditions into their own rituals and celebrations. The Council of Nicaea, convened by Constantine in 325 AD, played a pivotal role in shaping Christian doctrine. This council, among other things, addressed the date of Easter, ultimately choosing to align it with the existing pagan celebrations of the spring equinox. This decision, while controversial, reflects the pragmatic approach taken by early Christians as they sought to spread their faith within a predominantly pagan world. Section 1. The Politics of Adaptation, Power, Pragmatism, and the Spread of Christianity. To understand how Christianity, a religion initially persecuted by the Roman Empire, eventually became its official faith, we need to delve into the fascinating interplay of power, politics, and religious adaptation. The story of Easter's evolution is inextricably linked to this larger historical narrative. The Roman Empire, with its vast territories and diverse populations, was a melting pot of cultures, beliefs, and religious practices. While the Romans had their own pantheon of gods and goddesses, they generally tolerated the beliefs of conquered peoples, as long as those beliefs didn't threaten Roman authority. This policy of religious tolerance, however, didn't extend to early Christians. Christianity, with its monotheistic beliefs and emphasis on spiritual equality, challenged the very foundations of Roman society. Christians refused to worship the Roman emperor as a god, a subversive act that often led to persecution. Section 2. The Roman Empire's Pagan Legacy, a tapestry of gods, goddesses, and ancient rituals. To appreciate the challenges faced by early Christians, we need to understand the deeply ingrained pagan beliefs and practices that permeated Roman society. The Romans, like many ancient cultures, were polytheistic, worshipping a multitude of gods and goddesses associated with various aspects of life, death, and the natural world. Religious rituals played a central role in Roman life, from grand public festivals honoring the gods to more intimate household rituals seeking their favor. These rituals often involved offerings, sacrifices, and elaborate processions, all designed to maintain balance and harmony between the human and divine realms. Christianity, with its emphasis on one God and its rejection of traditional Roman gods, represented a radical departure from these deeply held beliefs and practices. Converting the Roman populace to this new faith would require more than just preaching and persuasion. It would demand a strategic blend of adaptation and compromise. Section 3. Constantine's Conversion, a turning point in religious history. The course of Roman history, and indeed the history of Christianity, took a dramatic turn in the early 4th century AD with the rise of Constantine the Great. Constantine, a Roman emperor embroiled in a power struggle, claimed to have experienced a vision of the Chi Rho symbol, a Christian symbol representing the first two letters of Christ's name in Greek. Interpreting this vision as a sign from the Christian God, Constantine went on to win a decisive victory at the Battle of Milvian Bridge. This victory, attributed to divine intervention, solidified Constantine's belief in the power of the Christian God and paved the way for his eventual conversion to Christianity. In 313 AD, Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, a groundbreaking decree that granted religious tolerance to Christians within the Roman Empire. This edict marked a turning point in Christian history, ending centuries of persecution and paving the way for Christianity's eventual rise to dominance. Section 4. From Persecution to Prominence. Christianity's Rise to Power. With Constantine's support, Christianity transitioned from a persecuted sect to a favored religion within the Roman Empire. Churches were built, scriptures were translated, and Christianity began to spread rapidly throughout the empire, attracting both genuine converts and those seeking imperial favor. However, the transition from paganism to Christianity wasn't without its challenges. Many people, deeply rooted in their traditional beliefs, resisted this new faith. To bridge this gap, Christian leaders often adopted a pragmatic approach, incorporating elements of existing pagan traditions into Christian rituals and celebrations. This process of syncretism, the blending of different religious beliefs and practices, played a significant role in shaping the Christianity we know today. Pagan festivals were reimagined as Christian holidays, temples were converted into churches, and even the stories and symbols of Christianity often reflected earlier pagan myths and archetypes. Section 5. Easter's Enduring Appeal, Blending Faith, Tradition, and the Joys of Spring. Easter, with its themes of rebirth, renewal, and the triumph of life over death, holds a universal appeal that transcends religious boundaries. It's a time when people of all faiths and backgrounds can come together to celebrate the arrival of spring, the beauty of nature, and the enduring power of hope. The holiday's blend of religious significance and secular traditions contributes to its enduring popularity. For Christians, Easter represents the cornerstone of their faith, the belief in Jesus' resurrection, and the promise of eternal life. For others, it's a time for family gatherings, festive meals, and the simple pleasures of springtime. Easter's ability to encompass both the sacred and the secular, the religious and the cultural, speaks to its adaptability and its enduring resonance with the human spirit. Section 6. The Power of Syncretism, How Religions Borrow, Adapt, and Evolve. The story of Easter's evolution highlights a phenomenon that has played a significant role in the development of religions throughout history: syncretism. Syncretism, the blending of different beliefs and practices, often occurs when different cultures and religious traditions come into contact with one another. Sometimes, syncretism is a deliberate strategy employed by religious leaders to make their faith more palatable to a wider audience. In other cases, it occurs more organically, as people naturally incorporate elements of their existing beliefs into their new faith. Whether deliberate or organic, syncretism has shaped the development of many major religions, including Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism. It reminds us that religions are not static entities, but rather living traditions that constantly evolve and adapt in response to changing historical, cultural, and social contexts. Section 7. The Easter Debate. Separating fact from fiction, history from mythology. The exploration of Easter's origins often sparks debate and controversy. Some people, deeply committed to their faith, view any attempt to connect Christianity with earlier pagan traditions as disrespectful or even blasphemous. Others, embracing a more historical and anthropological perspective, see these connections as evidence of the complex and fascinating ways in which religions evolve and adapt over time. Separating fact from fiction, history from mythology, can be a challenging task, particularly when dealing with ancient traditions and beliefs. The further back in time we go, the more fragmented the evidence becomes, making it difficult to reconstruct a definitive and universally accepted narrative. However, the exploration of these ancient connections, even if they challenge our preconceived notions, can be an enriching and enlightening experience. By approaching these topics with an open mind and a critical eye, we can gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of history, the human search for meaning, and the enduring power of ancient traditions. Section 8. Reclaiming the sacred, finding meaning and authenticity in ancient traditions. Whether you celebrate Easter as a religious holiday, a cultural tradition, or simply a joyous occasion to welcome spring, the exploration of its ancient origins can deepen your appreciation for the richness and complexity of human history and spirituality. By understanding the ways in which ancient cultures celebrated the cycles of nature, honored the divine feminine, and sought to connect with the cosmos, we can find inspiration and meaning in our own lives. As we've journeyed through the history of Easter, from ancient Mesopotamia to the Roman Empire and beyond, we've uncovered layers of meaning and symbolism that continue to resonate today. The story of Easter is ultimately a story about transformation, renewal, and the enduring human search for meaning and connection in a world that is constantly changing. Section 1. The Resurrection Riddle Historical Event or Symbolic Allegory. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the very heart of the Easter celebration, the resurrection of Jesus. For Christians, this event stands as the cornerstone of their faith, the ultimate proof of Jesus' divinity and the promise of eternal life. But what if the resurrection, like so much of what we've discussed, is more than meets the eye? What if it's not meant to be taken literally, as a historical event that defied the laws of nature, but rather as a powerful allegory, a symbolic representation of spiritual transformation and renewal? This is where things get really interesting, folks. We're entering the realm of faith, belief, and the very nature of truth itself. Can we reconcile ancient myths and symbols with historical accounts? Can we find spiritual truth in stories that may or may not have happened exactly as they were written? Section 2. The Gospel's Varied Accounts. Seeking clarity amidst contradictions. Adding to the complexity of this discussion are the varied accounts of the resurrection found within the Bible itself. The four Gospels, each written by a different author decades after Jesus' death, offer slightly different perspectives on the events surrounding his crucifixion and alleged resurrection. These discrepancies, while troubling for some, are not entirely surprising given the oral tradition that initially preserved these stories. As stories are passed down through generations, they're inevitably shaped and reshaped by the memories, beliefs, and agendas of those who tell them. Some scholars argue that these variations in the Gospel accounts point to a lack of historical accuracy, suggesting that the resurrection was a later embellishment added to enhance Jesus' status as the Messiah. Others, however, interpret these variations as evidence of the story's authenticity, arguing that multiple witnesses to a significant event are unlikely to recount it in exactly the same way. One of the central pieces of evidence often cited to support the resurrection is the empty tomb. According to the Gospels, when Jesus' followers went to his tomb on the third day after his crucifixion, they found it empty, the stone rolled away, and no sign of his body. This discovery, coupled with their subsequent encounters with someone they believed to be the resurrected Jesus, convinced them that he had indeed risen from the dead, just as he had promised. This belief, fueled by their grief, their hope, and their desire for their leader's return, became the foundation of the Christian faith. However, skeptics have offered alternative explanations for the empty tomb. Some suggest that Jesus' disciples may have stolen his body to perpetuate the belief in his resurrection. Others propose that Roman authorities, seeking to quell any potential unrest, may have removed the body themselves. As we've explored throughout this series, the themes of death and resurrection are not unique to Christianity. Numerous ancient cultures shared myths about dying and rising gods, each embodying themes of sacrifice, renewal, and the promise of eternal life. Some scholars argue that the Christian story of Jesus' resurrection borrowed heavily from these earlier myths, adapting them to fit a new religious framework. They point to the striking similarities between the stories of Jesus, Horus, Mithras, and Dionysus, all of whom experienced death and rebirth, offering their followers a path to salvation. This idea, while intriguing, is not without its critics. Some Christians view any attempt to connect Jesus' resurrection to earlier pagan myths as a direct attack on their faith. They argue that these similarities are purely coincidental, or that they reflect God's use of archetypal themes that resonate with the human experience. To fully grasp the complexities of this debate, we need to consider the historical context in which Christianity emerged and spread. In its early days, Christianity was a fledgling religion, its beliefs passed down orally among a relatively small group of followers. Over time, these oral traditions were written down, compiled, and eventually canonized as the New Testament. This process of transforming oral tradition into written scripture inevitably involved interpretation, selection, and, some might argue, embellishment. As Christianity gained prominence within the Roman Empire and beyond, its leaders sought to solidify its doctrines, establish a hierarchical structure, and define its relationship to other faiths. The resurrection, as a central tenet of Christian belief, became a focal point of theological debate and interpretation. Section 6. Beyond literal interpretations, finding spiritual truth in ancient narratives. So, where does this leave us? How do we reconcile the historical, mythological, and spiritual dimensions of the Easter story? Ultimately, the answer to this question is a personal one. Some people find comfort and meaning in literal interpretations of religious texts, viewing them as infallible accounts of historical events. Others embrace a more metaphorical approach, seeking spiritual truths and moral guidance in stories that may or may not have happened exactly as they were written. The beauty of exploring these ancient narratives lies not in finding definitive answers, but rather in engaging with the enduring mysteries of life, death, and the human search for meaning. Whether you approach these stories as historical accounts, symbolic allegories, or a blend of both, they offer valuable insights into the human condition and our enduring fascination with the sacred and the unknown. Section 1. The Enduring Power of Ancient Echoes, a Tapestry of Tradition. So there you have it, folks. We've journeyed through the ages from ancient temples to the rise of Christianity, uncovering layers of history, mythology, and symbolism. These holidays are more than just dates on a calendar. They are living tapestries, woven with threads of ancient wisdom and cultural adaptation. Whether religious or cultural, the past profoundly influences our present-day celebrations. The springtime spectacle, a celebration of renewal, rebirth, and chocolate. Let's be honest, folks. Easter conjures up images of playful bunnies, chocolate eggs, and family gatherings filled with laughter. And you know what? That's perfectly okay. There's something undeniably joyous about these traditions, even if their origins are ancient. Traditions evolve, taking on new meanings for different generations. So indulge in that chocolate bunny. Hide those eggs for the kids to find. Gather with loved ones and celebrate spring. Section 3. Beyond the bunny, embracing the deeper rhythms of life, death, and transformation. The story of Easter, Passover, and Good Friday is, at its core, a story about transformation. It's a story about death and rebirth, darkness and light, the cyclical nature of life, and the enduring human spirit that seeks meaning and hope, even in the face of loss and uncertainty. Whether you find solace in the Christian narrative of Jesus' resurrection, resonate with the ancient myths of dying and rising gods, or simply embrace the symbolism of spring as a time for renewal and growth, there's a universal truth embedded within these traditions. Change is inevitable, death is a part of life, and within every ending lies the seed of a new beginning. So, as we conclude our exploration of these holidays and their hidden histories, let us embrace the deeper rhythms of life, death, and transformation that connect us all. Let us approach the world with open hearts and curious minds, seeking wisdom in unexpected places and finding beauty in the tapestry of human experience, woven together with threads of ancient and modern, sacred and secular, lighthearted celebration and profound contemplation.